example blast from the past. And today, MLSs are definitely online, and we absolutely have to keep up with changing technology, including all of the mobile access. MLSs, although the customers are primarily realtors, we have to be responsive to the needs of consumers. And so if a new consumer gadget comes out, MLSs must pay attention. The cost has fallen. So this is in 1979, it was about $3,300, and I'm told that this is the SETI currency equivalent. So today that price has fallen through the use of technology to about $300 per year. And so technology definitely fosters that being driven down. So MAINSTREET is the MLS for the Chicagoland marketplace, like I said. Other MLSs have different structures. MAINSTREET was formed back in 2008 with a regionalization, and so some MLSs are very small and localized. It might be a certain neighborhood in some cases, but the trend definitely in the industry is for MLS to consolidate and expand to a larger market area, and so that's definitely something that MAINSTREET has done in the past. We currently serve 12 realtor associations, and we have a board of managers that makes all of our decisions, and we have 26 staff members that run the MLS on a day-to-day basis. Our governance structure is a hybrid, meaning that we do have ownership of the legal entity by Realtor Association and also brokers. So a broker can buy a unit of ownership in MAINSTREET. And this is kind of unique to MAINSTREET. There are some MLSs that are formed today. Most MLSs, I'd say, in the nation are owned by Realtor Association. That's a very common model. We do have a volunteer board that are all realtors that make our decisions. They're comprised of 30 brokers. We have 2 association execs, Pam is one, and 1 strategic manager that is actually an MLS operator out of the Washington, D.C. area. And so that's who makes the decisions on behalf of MAINSTREET. And MAINSTREET is a little bit unique in that we do not directly sign up our customers. We go through the associations. Some MLSs actually control the membership themselves, and they directly bill those local agents. And so there's different models, but this is the way that MAINSTREET has been able to expand. So we wholesale that service to the association. And I think that this is an important concept because I think that the wholesale retail model is one that will foster consolidation among other areas. And the reason that that's important is because in the United States, the MLS service is viewed as being a key benefit to belonging to a local realtor association. And so if you extract the MLS from the association, quite frequently associations around the United States would not be able to exist financially without that MLS being part of their business. But by having a wholesale retail model, the association remains in control of collecting the money, and that way they can mark it up, they can charge whatever they want. There's just a base fee to the association. And it's more appealing for the MLS to gain new associations in their area because it doesn't threaten the association by taking away some of their revenue. So the organization itself is built on a network of systems. We actually have a vendor. We are a technology company. You have to understand what the technology is, both database-wise, but also consumer technology. And so it's very intensive that way. We also have a healthy legal component because that data that is input into the MRED database is actually, in a lot of cases, not owned by MRED. It's licensed, meaning that when we distribute it to third parties, we need to be careful that we're following all of the applicable rules that are in those contracts. We have outreach to get our members to abide by our policies or learn about our new products. So there's a segment of the MRED staff that is dedicated just to communication. Compliance, again, that's filtering through the rules and making sure that the listings in MRED obey the rules. And if they don't, then we have a big portion of our staff that will make phone calls and send letters to get those listings to follow our rules. We have training, and we have a phone center to where if our customers have questions, they can call in and they can get help right away. So this is the basic components of almost every MLS in the nation. Those are different attributes you'll see. So this is MRED's market area. Again, it's northern Illinois. It doesn't look geographically like we would cover 90% of realtors in Illinois, but we do, just because the city of Chicago here is a huge component of that. We're actually 13,000 miles that we cover, which is larger than Belgium, Armenia, Haiti, and Israel. So the remainder of Illinois, you saw the map, actually has 18 other MLSs that serve this area, which is a relatively large number. But again, some MLSs want to say super local. And this has been, quite frankly, an issue for the industry because a lot of people say if they were to design an MLS going forward, the number of MLSs would be something important to consider because it's really hard to work together when you have so many different types of MLSs all making decisions about the rules and all doing things differently. So in the MLS area, we call it overlapping market disorder. But basically it means that if you are a realtor that's going to be selling throughout the entire state, you might have to join 18 or 19 different businesses to actually have the full inventory. And that's an issue. And so that's one thing that I would say pay attention to is if you're setting up the geography, get it to be as large as you possibly can for the inventory's sake. It will make things simple in the long run. Data sharing is something that some MLSs have done to varying degrees of success. Data sharing can be expensive, so that's where two MLSs consolidate their database in a third, and it's just expensive, and it does have some issues. So it's much better model, in my opinion, to start with one than try to put it back together. So in MRED, we have quite a history. We have over 6 million property records that have been submitted to our database. I mentioned we have 98,000 for sale right now. 32 million photos are what we house. We have a lot of software to help us ensure the accuracy of our database. And we have a lot of rules talking about how fresh that information is. And for example, we require that everyone that gets a new listing submit it to the MRED database within 72 hours of signing that contract. So that's a little bit about MRED. We do have to pay attention to consumers because a portion of what MRED does allows our realtor customers to send properties to their clients. And so we had 19 million clients that logged in to MRED during the year. We have a lot of people logging in through the mobile site, and we have 163,000 consumers that log into MRED to look at what is new. And again, that access is given to consumers through their local realtor. And so we do serve the consumer population. And we have generated over 76 million searches during the past year. So we have 6.4 million clients that are in this area that have logged in, and we email 73 million times a year new properties to clients. And so an MLS database really is more than just a system that you log into. We have a tremendous reach. Realist is our tax database, and so this is a company that aggregates property information regardless of whether or not it's for sale. We have information on every parcel through this Realist system, and so our customers view that as a very valuable tool, and we have 4.5 million searches done on the tax portion of our service. Connect MLS is our software vendor. It's actually based out of Austin, Texas, and so MRED does not create our own software. We have somebody else do that for us, and they do a very, very good job. We are a top-rated MLS in the nation consistently. So something relatively new to MRED is our international property type. This was introduced to our database at the end of last year, And so it's something that is growing. So in MRED's database, we have properties from outside of Chicago. We have a lot of properties in Central America. We have some in Europe. Yesterday I checked, we have one in Iraq. And so it is something that we are growing, and we're working with local realtor associations to get the word out. In fact, I was just at a global council meeting with the local association here, and they're trying to help us generate more listings in this database. And so the way that this works is a local member of MRED might have a marketing agreement for a property in another country, and that agreement says that they have the exclusive right to market that property in MRED's area, meaning the Chicagoland area. So it's exclusive to Chicago, but that international property might have another marketing agreement with another realtor, maybe in New York City or in Washington, D.C., and they could submit that to that MLS in that area if that MLS also has an international property class. I know there is one MLS in Southern California that also operates this way, but it's something that's relatively new to MLSs, and so it's something that we're paying attention to among the nation, but we are definitely a trailblazer in this area. And side, when I checked, it was less than 200, and compared to 98,000, that's not a lot. But again, it's in its infancy, and it's something that we are actively promoting and working with our local associations to get more listings submitted to this database. So the international listings that are in MRED are fed out to Realtor.com. However, they're still mapping them, and so they don't appear there yet. I'm told by Realtor.com it'll be any time now. But Realtor.com is also expanding their coverage of international listings. And so they have some that are from other sources, but Realtor.com also has a translation service. So if there are buyers from another country that are looking for properties here in the States, you can go to Realtor.com and translate it into a number of different languages. And so it's, again, something that real estate in the United States is going global. It's just not completely there yet. So this is a screenshot of our international property class in MRED. It's a very limited version. The property that's in Chicago probably has a lot more fields, a multitude more fields of what is required to be input here. But we wanted to start small so we can figure out, to grow gracefully and not require a lot right away and sort of scare people off. So this is what you need to input in our database if you have an international property. We have a number of different statuses, and this is our grid view after you do a search. This is what you would see in our system that shows you different properties, and you can sort these by country, you can sort them by any number of ways. And then when you actually get to one of those properties, this one I believe is in Uruguay, this is what you see. And so that's just a little bit about our system. MRED also has a number of partnerships with other software companies. And so part of an MLS is connecting software together. And so these are some partners that MRED feeds our data through, and they all have different things that they do. Some of them are transaction management, digital signatures on forms, CMAs, meaning how you compare properties to each other so you can make an informed decision. So anyway, I just want you to know that MLSs are very much viewed as a source of technology for our members. And so we are always talking to different vendors. And the National Association of Realtors twice a year puts on an expo where we bring vendors together at a big trade show, and they set up booths. And so our members are very active in going there and saying, hey, here's a new booth, a new technology. Is it going to work with MRED? And so we're constantly paying attention to any new technology that affects the real estate market. There are a number of organizations that are sort of MLS specific in the United States. We have our own version of NAR just for MLSs. It's our trade association called the Council of MLSs. And so we talk about MLS-specific initiatives. There is a conference coming up if you want to know more information. It's in Austin this year. Or no, it's in, it's in Austin, I think, this year. I forget. And then it's in October, but it's at cmls.org if you want to know more about MLSs. They typically bring together 300 to 400 different MLSs from across the United States will attend this conference. So COVE is a group of 23 MLSs, and the 23 MLSs that are a member of this organization comprise about 50 or more % of realtors in the entire United States. And so they are regional MLSs like MRED. We are a member of COVE. And so you can see that while there might be 800 MLSs around that neighborhood in the United States, the large ones have the majority of the listings and the majority of people subscribing, and the rest of them serve those really small market areas. And so the COVE group is something that is sort of a think tank. We talk about the most interesting issues of the day, and we figure out what we would like to see happen, and then we try to bring together the CMLS organization or the NAR or other organizations to influence the decisions that are made on behalf of MLSs. RESO is an organization that tries to standardize data for MLSs. And so when there are 800 MLSs all doing things their own way, it's problematic. And so the RESO organization tries to say, okay, let's come up with one way to do it, and let's all agree to do it that one way. And this is the organization that creates that one way to do it. So that's an important organization that brings not only MLSs, but also the National Association of Realtors, all of our technology providers. So that list of vendors that you saw, they are members of RESO, as well as brokers. And so it really is a cross-section of the industry that goes to those RESO meetings. And it's really the engineers, the software people, that are creating that one way to do it. So it's a uniform technology for the entire MLS industry in the United States. It's a very important organization. There are different advisory boards. Realtor.com, I mentioned, is definitely an industry partner that MRED is involved in. I'm on their advisory board. And so there are a lot of organizations that affect the software side of the business. Consumers definitely have a lot to do with what decisions MLSs make. We currently have, we call it a broker opt-in, but I mentioned that MLSs distribute data to third-party sources. The way that MRED approaches this is we don't want to make all of the decisions on where that data goes. We'd rather have our brokers make that decision. And so if a website pops up and they come to MRED and say, I want your 98,000 listings to appear on that website, we say, no, that's not MRED's job. That's the broker's job. And so we want the broker to say, yes, MRED, we want our brokerage's listings to go to this third party. Because it's important to understand that those listings come from the brokers, and they might not want them to be everywhere on the internet. Some of those websites are not viewed very favorably, and so those brokers do not want MRED making the decision of where that data goes. And so we have an opt-in policy that guides us. Realtor.com is an exception. Most MLSs give 100% of their listings to Realtor.com because they are an industry partner. MRED does do that. We give all of it to Realtor.com, including our sold information. Zillow, Trulia, Homes.com, those we do not give everything. We have the broker tell us, and currently they have around 80 to 85% of our brokers have said yes, give our data to these sources. But that can change in a minute. All a broker has to do is go into MRED and say, no, don't send it there, and we quit sending it there. We do not have a website that MRED runs for consumers to go to. In the past, Realtor.com was what we were talking. We send that and all consumer traffic there if somebody asks us what website to go to. However, there's another initiative called the Broker Public Portal Project that is just beginning. And so MRED is a participant in that. It will be a brand new website that will be created that will compete with Realtor.com and Zillow and Trulia and Homes.com. It will be run a little bit differently. So that's something that MRED has helped starting, and it will cover the entire United States and maybe beyond that. So that's something that we're creating.
Rebecca, sorry. The broker and the realtor.
Yes.
Can you explain,
The
the difference
between a broker and a realtor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, great question,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
So a broker, in our terms, is somebody that has gone to the state and gotten a license. But a realtor is a broker that has a license that went to a local realtor association and joined. So it is, Pam right here signs up the brokers, and then once she does that, now they're realtors.
Who formed the realtors?
Who formed the realtors?
What was that video we watched this morning?
You can be a broker, but what
Yes, you can be a broker without being a
Right.
realtor.
It's a brand.
Absolutely. So that's what I just want to get there.
It's like a membership.
Realtor, the word realtor is a registered brand, okay,
Mhm.
for the real estate agents that belong to the association.
So the broker that we're speaking about also is the sponsoring broker, who the realist, in this case realtors, because we're
Mhm.
members of MRED, we're members of the association, who the realtor members are, they're under that broker's umbrella. So the owner of the company, they're under, that's the broker that I think
Yes.
Rebecca is referring to now. So let's call that the sponsoring broker, because that's who it would be.
Yeah, it is
That's
the
who makes the
sponsoring.
decision. Yeah, the
And-
sponsoring broker,
And so
the boss.
there's the boss, and we have a membership rule that says if you work for the boss,
You got it.
then the boss has to be a member of the MLS, and then everybody else does too. But guess what? That listing belongs to the boss. It
Yeah.
doesn't belong to the agent.
Right.
Okay.
So the boss makes the decision on behalf of everything that MRED does.
Rebecca, I think I want to draw this, the distinction between a managing broker and a salesperson or a broker.
Yes.
In Chicago, this is what I know in the state of Illinois, we have the managing broker, and we used to have a salesperson. So the managing broker is the manager and is the owner of the office.
Not always.
And the
Not always.
salesperson will have to work under the person that owns, and that person is
From
Yeah, from Marcia. So you can be a managing broker, you're not necessarily the owner of that company.
That's true.
So
Exactly,
you could
you're
own the
right.
company.
You're
I
right.
could be your
You're
managing
right.
broker.
We
So
have to
that's
go
why I think
into
we need-
broader detail.
Let's just call it right now the sponsoring broker. So that sponsoring broker hires a managing broker.
Exactly.
But right now, it's that head guy, the boss, the
Right, the
sponsoring
boss.
broker,
Right.
and then everybody falls under that person, entity. Even if it is the managing broker, they still have to answer to that boss, okay, the sponsoring broker. Maybe that'll, otherwise, I think we're gonna just get so complicated.
It is complicated.
Yeah.
And from MRED perspective, we care about the boss.
Yeah, the
We
boss.
care about comes to us and wants us to go that way, and the boss wants us to go that way. Guess what? We're going that way.
The boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the boss will take all those agents and just say, go away.
Yeah.
MRED, right? So it's complicated. So let's see, what else?
You're at Midwest.
Yeah,
Homes.
Midwest, we have a mobile app, so on our phone, you can access Midwest Homes through that device. And then there's this policy called IDX. So it stands for Internet Data Exchange, not that that acronym is important, but the concept is if boss has a website, they can put all of the listings from MRED on that website. And that's an agreement that if this broker, this boss can do it, then the same thing applies. That broker's listings are okay to appear on every other broker's website. And so it's an agreement that I will let you put my listings on your website if you let me put your listings on my website.
So it's 100% participation
It's
for that.
100%. Yep, that is what a benefit of being part of an MLS.
I just have a question for the visiting delegates. What should be the relationship, for example, between them as legislatures coming up with a bill and an organization like MRED? What should be the relationship? in general?
I thought
Well-
we're actually going to, is it for us?
Yeah, for
Yes.
Okay.
general
On
question.
behalf-
Yeah, on behalf
Okay.
of, yeah, or,
Well, I mean, it's better if it's a good relationship, first of all, because I am recently a resident here of Illinois. I came from Utah, and so it was always nice to know from the government standpoint what they were planning to see if our rules that are created by a small board of directors are in alignment. And so first of all, it should be a working relationship. But the way that it works in the United States is that there are different areas. There's a different sandbox as far as the government is responsible for this area over here and the MLS is responsible for a completely different area. And so, I don't know, help me out on some of the local laws that are enforced by the division. It's, you can't be a criminal, you can't.
Right, it's, and I'm not exactly sure how to explain it in detail
Yeah.
either. It's a separate entity as far as, but the rule, putting information out on the internet, all of the changes that are going on at the national level as far as what, taxation, there's actually rules of pending legislation on taxation of data. So all of that, the MLS needs to be aware of and make sure that they understand what's going on, so their rules are enforceable.
Sharon?
So I think to make a distinction in terms of what governs the MLS, in terms of the data that goes in, that is governed by the multiple listing service and then through our National Association of Realtors, in kind of what goes in and who has access to it. But there are other regulations that MRED as an entity that manages data that they have to abide by. Like right now, under debate in our US Congress is data security policies and procedures. And so any entity that would manage data and collect data, they would have to abide by those rules too. And that goes down to real estate brokers too, that are collecting data and managing data. It may not be property data, but there's different levels of regulation that apply to different components of the data.
And part of what the government does is a real estate transaction in Illinois, there are certain requirements. You have to have education. You have to pass, I believe, a background check to make sure that you haven't defrauded somebody. You have to keep current on your education. So every so often you have to do what they call continuing education. So that means that you're staying abreast of all of the issues that are happening today to get your license renewed. And so there's different things that they say. That education talks about how you do deals and what's required, and it keeps you, it's an actual law that you would be breaking, and so if you break that law, then there are legal consequences with the government. So that's different than once you say, okay, you have your license from the government, then here are the rules of our club. It's a membership. And so that's kind of something that we don't have to go to the government to change, which is nice. So if we want to evolve with the industry, then we can make certain rules that kind of help transactions along because government moves more slowly and is more complicated to change here. So